Okay, well, we'll call the meeting to order. And the first item of business is the minutes from the last meeting. I think we all received that.
The minutes should have been attached to the email that went out in advance of today's meeting. Yes, hopefully you've all received them.
Does anybody have any comments or questions or concerns about the minutes? No?
I hear none.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Okay, Julia. In motion and
Bryna.
Ryan, okay, I got to pronounce that name. Seconds, okay, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, and then the next thing on the agenda is public comment. Mitch,
We've received one public comment from Louis Kurt, who submitted a comment electronically. And it's fairly short, so I'll read it quickly. I urge everyone to join me in urging North Country Public Radio and their much admired sponsored SLU to move ahead and commit their vast experience and respected status to their promised community engagement plan when they meet on May 24th. Please let NCPR help us all rediscover the common values we share and allow us to rediscover the welcoming regional community that we are here. Silence is not the answer to hatred-filled lies, conspiracies, and violence. Sincerely, Lou. And I'll forward that to Ann to include in the record.
and actually that was part of an email that went to a number of people or CC people. And there was a follow-up email from someone at
I think Kelly Brooks followed up with
Right.
but I don't know that that was directed.
no,
to
that
us.
wasn't directed
Right.
to us, but at any rate, yeah, so he again is urging some sort of community forum, and it's a point well taken.
Well, and I can mention again that community engagement is the primary focus of the America Amplified initiative that we are a part of, and has started with the launch of the survey we've been publicizing on our websites and over the air, asking people to share what they think we're missing and the communities they think we're missing. And the next step from that is to schedule listening sessions in various places around the community. And I actually will suggest that at our annual meeting this summer, Amy Feiereisel, who is the point person on the staff for the American Amplified Initiative, should get up and give us an in-depth update on the progress of that project. Hopefully there will be public meetings before that, public engagement meetings before the annual meeting of the EC, but at the very least, she should be able to give us a full update
Okay.
on the project
Great.
when we next meet.
Good. Okay, next thing on the agenda is station manager's report. And before we get into that, I just wanted to mention, I think we all know that Mitch's father passed away recently, and we were all sad to hear about that. But the members of the executive council have gotten together, and we've made a group donation in memory of your father. And I think the total is over $850.
$855.
$855 in memory of your father. So
I thank you. I'm speechless, actually. Although I guess I'll say only that one of the things that's hardest for me to reconcile is that probably 2 hours before he collapsed, I got an internal text message asking if I was related to Al Tyke because he had just contributed to the last day of our spring fundraiser.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah, I wish only that we were supposed to talk that night and I was gonna thank him. But I know he was a huge fan of what we do here. He was a huge fan of every public radio station where I worked and yeah, I miss him. But,
Was he in radio, Mitch?
what's that?
Was he in radio?
He was not in radio. He was in science policy. He worked for years for the American Association for the Advancement of Science.
Oh, okay.
But he spoke. He did a lot of public events. His contribution to the world really was trying to increase advocacy and knowledge of science and the role it plays in society.
Excellent. Thank you.
Dad, of course.
And being my dad, yes.
Yeah,
And being
that's a
around.
big role.
And I swore up and down that I would not follow in his footsteps academically and PhD in political science and my degree is political science. So
It happens.
thank you so much to everyone who contributed. I really, it's a wonderful legacy.
Heartfelt thank you from me to EC as well and everyone who did make that contribution in honor of Mitch's dad. So thank you. all
Great idea.
from the station.
I truly had no idea, so I
Surprise.
am speechless. For those of you joining us online, first of all, thanks for taking the time. I'm gonna mask up. My son tested positive for COVID yesterday, so
Hmm.
I'm probably not contagious through the internet, but
You never know.
room. So I wanted to thanks to everyone who made time for this meeting, and I have a couple of things that I wanted to update people on, including one that just happened within the hour. So I'm still trying to pull the information together on it, but I'll start by mentioning that we have a new reporter that's on staff and has started already. She's our new Plattsburgh bureau chief. Her name is Kara Chapman. And she comes to us from the Plattsburgh Press Republican, where she worked for 3 years. She spent some time out of journalism before that, but started her career in journalism also at the Press Republican. So she has somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 years of journalism experience, especially in the Champlain Valley. She's a native of the Plattsburgh area. She went to college just across the lake in Vermont. I believe at St. Michael's, but I couldn't be, like, don't quote me on that. But she's really committed to the region. She is so excited to be a member of the staff, and her family is still in the area. She has many journalism connections in the area, so she's really going to hit the ground running. She'll have a little bit of work to do in changing from print style to radio style, but David Summerstein, our news director, has great onboarding plans and is especially good at sort of taking people from one form of journalism to another. So we couldn't be more thrilled to have her. She'll be at the annual meeting summer, and you'll get a chance to meet her then. But it's very exciting news. And also thank you to St. Lawrence University for helping us expedite the hiring process when our previous Champlain Valley reporter stepped down. We were able to fill the position within about a month, and it's an incredibly important place for us to be. So we're thrilled, and hopefully we'll be able to do some public events with her to get her out in the world and meeting especially our donors and listeners in the Champlain Valley and elsewhere. So if you hear Kara Chapman on the air, that's who we're talking about. We're also in the next couple of weeks welcoming a brand new core member from an organization called Report for America. We applied for and received a grant to be able to hire for 1 year, renewable for a second and potentially a third, an emerging journalist. She's from New York City, named Lucy Grinden, to hire or to fill the rural poverty beat. Report for America is an organization that works kind of like the Peace Corps or Teach for America. It takes young journalists who are just getting out of undergraduate or graduate school and places them in newsrooms where they kind of learn the ropes of day-to-day reporting. But they also, they also show a great deal of promise. Lucy came really highly recommended, went through a vetting process by Report for America and then an interview process with us. The idea is that not only are these core members matched for their ability, but their interest in the particular subject area that the station asks them to cover. As I say, we're trying to take the next step from our Piecing It Together series, which began before the pandemic, and really turn it into a full-time beat and devote the time and effort and resources necessary to cover rural poverty, which, as you well know, is a huge issue throughout the North Country. So she'll also hopefully be at the next Executive Council meeting this summer. She actually starts June 1st, but the first 2 weeks of her tenure, I think, involves some on-the-ground training with the full Report for America cohort. But one of the things that comes with the Report for America is they match 50% of the reporter's salary. We're responsible for the other 50% plus benefits. Of that, we're required to fundraise for a quarter of it, at least a quarter of it. And the aim is to fundraise for more than that, and in fact, more than a year's commitment to that. And so I'm going to turn things over to Lizette for a moment. We're very fortunate to have been included in a fundraising cohort to design a strategy and implement it through an organization called the Local Media Association. And Lizette, I don't know, do you want to talk about that a bit?
I just want to include some of the facts on that. They will fund up to the first year. After that, they will be funded, but at a lower rate. Our goal is to actually fully fund this position for 3 to 5 years so that we really have someone that can be in there and immersed in this work. So that is the goal moving forward. And you'll all be hearing lots about this.
What kind of numbers are you looking at?
It's right now, it's $50,000 per year for the reporter. So they fund $25,000 and you have to come up with the second half of that.
For this year and then less?
This year, and then the next year, I believe it's at 30%, and the year after that at 20. I'm almost sure that those were percentages. That's all I have to say.
Okay. And we'd be happy, again, we'll introduce you to Lucy at the next Executive Council meeting, and hopefully we'll be hearing her on the air pretty soon. I wouldn't normally be on my phone during an EC meeting, but just before coming over here, we found out that NCPR has won 7 regional Murrow Awards, and these are among the most prestigious awards in the broadcast journalism business. These 7 awards for this year include for continuing coverage, COVID Goes Back to School, excellence in diversity, equity, and inclusion on Malone's police reform ban, feature reporting Wild Side, how a trans forest ranger found herself in the Adirondacks, hard news, teenagers take over a town's ambulance service, news series, COVID Goes Back to School, and overall excellence, and sports reporting, diversifying the Adirondacks, one whitewater rafting trip or hike at a time. All those 7 go on to compete for national Murrow Awards. This is done through the Radio, TV, Digital News Directors Association, and they come on the tail of us also winning, I believe it's 6 PMJA, Public Media Journalism Association national awards. We don't know what places each received, but they are the 6. But they are the most prestigious public media awards in the industry. So at a time when we're facing a lot of obstacles, the news department once again really showed its mettle and continued to do amazing work. So I offer a round of applause. And this is not the last round of applause in the next couple of minutes, because I did want to take a moment to honor we have a couple of guests with us today. Linda and Sarah Cohen are with us, and I think it goes without saying that one of the key reasons that we're here in Old Forge today is their tireless advocacy for NCPR, really to do justice to this part of our listening area. It's an incredibly important part of the region for us now. It will only get more important over the years. And Linda and Sarah have been incredibly vital to the health of NCPR for years. I'll say Linda, of course, was the EC board chair when I started as the general manager here at NCPR, and was the perfect partner to get my feet wet and get my bearings when I started here. And the two of them continue to be tireless advocates for the region and great friends to the station. So we want to honor them by we brought a couple of gifts. And I also wanted to give anyone else at this meeting an opportunity to say a couple of words.
Thank you. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
So these are from a local artist in Boonville, actually. One of them purports to be a knitting basket, but I don't know that you, I don't know that you have to use it.
So.
Who's the artist?
Um,
Oh, my gosh.
it's on the.
Oh, the basket, yeah.
Thank you. Oh, it's a pleasure to do what we do. And no expectation that we would be. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad we showed up.
Well, Sarah, I know you passed on the sandwich, so I hope this is a nice. I hope this is a nice substitute.
The tax fest is the tax fest is really nice. There's no reason for anything else.
Wanted to make sure to
There
include
is no
something
way to
that,
get the wrapping off without destroying the wrapping. Oh, that's great. Oh, I love it. Oh my God. It matches my mug.
So for those of you who can't see it on the screen there, the NCPR only here posters,
I don't know where.
Which it should be said.
Oh, nice.
top left,
Very nice.
were
Thank
designed
you.
by Catherine LaPointe Balmer, who recently had an exhibition of paintings right here at the View Center for Arts and Culture.
Oh, was that the one where she traveled around the?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you hold those up so I could see them?
And then can you hold them up so I can? Perfect. Lovely. I'm sorry, I'm gonna squeeze into your space here. Thank you.
I know right where I'm going to put this.
Thank
too.
you so much.
But on so many levels, it's so important to have people who are, just such strong friends of a radio station and an outlet like ours. I couldn't be happier to call you friends of mine and of NCPR's. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you. It makes life in the Adirondacks possible. The winters are long and the nights are even longer, and having the friendly voices of NCPR has been terrific, especially in the past couple of years when we could see practically no one else. And as some of you know, I have 50-year relationship with public broadcasting, and this has certainly been amongst the very best experiences. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And the risk of starting coughing, I'll try. I just wanted to thank you both also myself. I've known both of you, but especially Linda, for a number of years. And you've both been very generous, not only to North Country Public Radio, but to other organizations that enhance the quality of life of people in the Adirondacks. And that really is greatly appreciated. So thank you so much for all you do.
Very welcome.
And that is all I have for the station manager's report.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
My turn, okay. So, I'm supposed to cover the spring fundraiser and where we are right now. So I'm thrilled to once again announce that we had a successful campaign, yay. So at the end of our spring fundraiser, you know, we're always so grateful that our supporters come through for us. You never know going in just where you're gonna end up, right? So last day of fundraiser, we weren't quite to our goal, and our goal was $325,000. We were at 305 when we went off air, but thankfully through the mail, our supporters came through, and we wound up at $348,000, $348,341 and change. So anyway, we did awesome, and we're just so very grateful to have gotten there. So we also wound up bringing in 307 new donors during the campaign, which is lovely.
Good.
We love seeing those new names come through. That was slightly less new donors than we had received last spring by about 41. However, in total dollars raised for new donors, we were up by 13, almost $14,000 in just the new donor.
Wow.
So that was significant for us as well. All in all, you know, going into this campaign, it was a challenge from the start. Number one, we started the campaign earlier, which is always, you know, a risk. The war had started. We were hearing from supporters that the inflation was causing issues. The gas prices were rising, energy costs were significant. So we had some supporters that just could not continue to support at this time, with the promise that they will come back to us when they can. But all these challenges, you know, led to the fact that we weren't quite sure where we would wind up when we had a very aggressive goal. So again, just all the more reason when we hit it and then exceeded it, we were really, really, really pleased. So thank you. And thank you to everyone in the room who also helped support that campaign. Did anybody have any questions on spring fundraiser?
I should add,
Congratulations.
Lizette, thank you so much for your leadership during the campaign.
Thank you. It was a fun one.
Sounded like we had a question online though.
No, I just want congratulations. That's hard work. You know it.
Thank you. Some good, interesting numbers came out of it as well. For instance, St. Lawrence County, we saw that 23% of our donors came specifically from St. Lawrence County. After that, Franklin County, about 8.4% of our donors came from there. Essex County, 8.84% of our donors came from there. Clinton, 8.1%, and Chittenden, Vermont, 7.05%. Jefferson County, 4.6%. Warren County, 4.8%. Canada, 2.5%. So, you know, it's all over the map, but hey, every little bit helps.
Do you have Lewis County or on that?
They fell down further.
Well, I'm sure they did.
They're not on the list, but yes, I do have those numbers, just not here. with me.
Oneida County is probably the smallest one, right?
There are
Yeah,
a lot of little.
Possibly followed by Herkimer.
Herkimer probably has the fewest people. Oh, I guess at least from our
Well,
listening
part of
area.
Herkimer
Yeah.
that you cover, yeah.
Yeah, you've got a transmitter in Boonville, but as soon as you get about 15 miles south of Boonville, it just disappears. And actually, most of the Boonville transmitter transmitted to Lewis County, northern, or almost in the Herkimer.
Does St. Lawrence County generally lead the way?
Yes, always, absolutely.
So, sorry, I don't get the logic behind that.
Biggest population.
It is the largest.
Well, it's the biggest, I know it's the biggest county. It's also the biggest, most populated county.
Yes, absolutely.
You guys ever been to Hammond, New York?
Well,
You know what? They're in our backyard.
I think part of it is historic reasons. Part of it is that when NCPR was founded, it initially was a St. Lawrence Valley service. And so over the years, we've just built up the most loyal listener base in St. Lawrence County. And then as we built, I think you could probably chart the age of the services against the loyalty and the numbers of members and have a pretty good correlation. I think if we look at where we went next, which is largely the Tri-Lakes area, we have a lot of members from Tupper Lake and Saranac Lake and Lake Placid. And,
Sure.
and partly that's because, we've served them comprehensively for a long time. But, as we're going to talk about when it comes to building new transmitters, and as we talked about, just in terms of advocating for various regions, our future relies on us serving places like Old Forge and Boonville and Glens Falls and Plattsburgh in the same coherent way that we serve the St. Lawrence Valley and the Tri-Lakes area. So,
I would also guess, look, when I lived in Watertown, you can get Oswego.
right.
So you're drunk, people are being drunk that. When I lived in Warren County, Vermont Public Radio, the station out of Albany, I mean, you could switch back and forth between the three and get all of them equally.
Other option. Yeah, for sure. What I can tell you is, as far as cities go, the most donations we get are from Potsdam, followed by Canton, then Saranac Lake, then Plattsburgh, then Watertown, then Lake Placid, and then Burlington, Vermont. So we do, we know where our concentrations are. Now, our goal obviously is to get more outside of that
Sure.
and get more support in the outskirts.
Certainly the two university towns, especially with Potsdam having Clarkson and SUNY there
Yeah.
is significant. I mean, the profile of staff and families and those people makes more sense to me. I didn't think of that, right?
Right, and,
But-
and before the Adirondack Bureau was built, obviously, before we had that initiative, we did more local, close to home
Sure.
stuff. So we did get out once the Adirondack Bureau was, it was an intentional effort to get more into the
My
Adirondack.
family's from Ogdensburg. And I remember what that community was like when I was growing up, and you wouldn't recognize it today, of course, because it's a wisp of what it used to be,
Yeah.
for a lot of reasons, some smart and some too bad, but of course, the two, Canton and Potsdam especially, I underestimate those. That's right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Interestingly, pick up some people. I talked to a friend of mine whose birthday was yesterday, lives in Clifton Park. And I told her I had this meeting today, and she says, oh, it's just when I'm at camp on Long Lake, I listen to NCPR because it's the only station I can get.
Yeah, well, let's go with that in the mountains. That's right.
Well, and of course, it goes without saying that our digital reach, knows no boundaries.
Correct.
And that's the $64,000 question for us and every other local media outlet is, how do you, what's the appropriate level of service for people who are, only connected to us digitally and might be listening in Albany or, Westchester County or wherever. And
I was introduced to NCPR in Haiti, so
Nice. Wow.
it goes far.
We
We
called
once
in
called
from
in
Borneo
once.
once, and I listened to it fairly regularly in Guatemala, but, because I spend the winters there, but there's a 2-hour time difference and I'm not an early riser.
Fabulous.
Is there a significant increase in Chittenden County over the short term, or is that
I
just
could
their sort of
tell you-
standard?
In Chittenden, bear with me. as
Is
I
that
find-
Vermont?
I
Yeah,
can
that's
tell you
correct.
that we raised more dollars this year than we had last year. So, but as far as percentage, I didn't actually document that part, but I can get back.
Yeah.
All right. Beyond that, as you may have seen, we did these wonderful music show T-shirts that we're looking forward to really pushing again at the end of the fiscal year and into the summer. But the most popular item that went as thank you gifts was our Northern Light mugs. So you have our most popular thank you gift right now. Okay. All right. Beyond that, again, just always so grateful when we have a successful campaign, and knock on wood, wherever we have it. This one. All right. So unless anybody has any other questions, I'll let you know where we are now.
I'll get no.
What, Jim? What, Jim?
Nothing.
I
I'm gonna
should
sneeze.
Gesundheit. I should mention, by the way, that normally we would have Bob Sauter joining us to give us an overall picture of finances across the board. He was traveling from Key West to back to the North Country. And at the time of planning for this meeting, it was a little up in the air when he was coming back. He came back very late yesterday, and so we can provide the EC at large with a financial picture, including underwriting and other sources following the meeting. But Lizette is at least going to give us a snapshot of where things are from an annual giving standpoint.
And where we are with annual giving is at $1,053,000 right now, which is great. It's on par where we were last year, actually slightly ahead of where we were last year this time. And so obviously our goal is to get the rest of the funds we need to end the year strong.
And what is that budget number for?
That would be about 1.1, hold on, I'll give you an exact number. I did pull that. We ended last fiscal year at $1,122,000 approximately. So our hope is, of course, to come in even higher than that. Any questions? And that's strictly annual giving. That doesn't factor in future fund or any of the other initiatives that we raise money for. All right,
Anything else for Lizette?
not on that.
Okay, engineering update.
Almost.
Yes, Keith is going to join us.
Good enough. Well, the good news is, many of the supply chain issues regarding the studio project we've been having have been resolved, and all of the major components for the new studios are in-house, with one exception being the studio furniture. We've had to go into some revisions with that. So we'll get those nailed down, and those are about six to 8 weeks away once we get that finalized, which should be in the next week or so. We have started building what will be the new mini studio, and that studio will give us a studio to work in when the main studio gets taken down. So it'll be a nice cover. It'll keep the workflow close to what it is now. So that's all progressive. The new studios will give us a lot of flexibility and enable us to do a number of things, both during fundraising, to have people in separate rooms, and there's a lot more functionality with being a digital system than there is in the current infrastructure.
Also gives us more redundancy.
Yes. Yes, because any of the studios could be put on the air, as compared to now. Well, you could, but you've got to move this wire to here and whisper a few prayers and incantations and hope that Bob labeled things correctly. Kidding, Bob. Some of the exciting news outside of the studios. In the fall, we put in a number of applications to the FCC for upgrades and for new services. The two upgrades in Tupper Lake and in Bristol have been approved. And we've got some maps that will show this. And of the new services that we applied for, 3 of the 5 have been granted. The new services are in Old Forge, Ellenburg, and Lake George. So Old Forge, where we currently have a translator, will now become a Class A radio station, which makes it a primary service. Same in Lake George, where being a primary service prevents another primary service from coming in and trying to get our frequency. So it's keep us on the air in these locations. The 2 that we're waiting for in Tupper Lake and Saranac Lake are second services. So we currently have the WREM based in Canton, which Bonnie is looking to do more with. And adding these, if we're granted these permits, it will put a second service in these locations so we can start to use that more and expand that reach.
Do you anticipate that they'll be granted?
To the best of my knowledge and belief, yes. The FC, these applications are MX mutually exclusive with other applicants. There were a number of applicants who applied for either the same frequency or the frequency first adjacent.
Mhm.
Then they can't coexist.
Mhm.
So the FCC has a point system. Bob and I believe that with the points that we made on our application, we should
Be first place.
we should be granted.
Now, which ones are those for?
Those are for Tupper Lake and Saranac Lake.
Just to let our folks joining us on Zoom know, we will email you copies of these maps, but they basically show where services are now and how the signal will be expanded based on what Pete's talking about.
This is great news, right?
It is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
good
yeah.
news.
For example, just looking at Old Forge,
Sure.
the amount of coverage and so an idea that we were working with. Are you familiar with HD radio?
Sure.
The concept.
Yeah.
With HD radio, you can put multiple channels, multiple services on one radio station. So, for example, if as we build Old Forge here, if we make it an HD signal, we could have that same second service for WREM, and we're planning for Tupper Lake and Saranac Lake on the HD channel. Then if we're able to change, through the commission, change the frequency of the existing translator, you'll be able to get both services with an analog radio plus on the HD. So it gives us a lot of potential space to build and provide more service.
I can tell you, Ellen Burbank, that we went to Plattsburgh a couple of years ago. There's just this dead spot in Plattsburgh and along, we get nothing.
Well, it's impressive to look at the visual because in the chart, as you all are looking, as Keith just explained, the inner one shows the current coverage area. The expanded one shows just how much further out we'll be able to reach. And it's an approximation. It could actually reach potentially not.
Yeah, the circles shown on these maps are what are known as the 60 dBu contour. And that is the signal level that is protected by law, but by the FCC regulations from other stations infringing on us. Actual signals go beyond these lines, especially in a car. That's where, for example, we were talking earlier, if you're listening to here in Old Forge and you're driving along Route 28, you can pick it up over into Eagle Bay and Inlet, which is far outside what the circle shows. These upgrades will be good for our coverage, and especially the upgrade in Bristol as well. That'll be a mark that'll put us squarely into Burlington and beyond and south as well.
And middle.
Yes.
How does
Not
that,
that it means I can write off my trip to visit my daughter.
how does that conflict with Vermont Public Radio? Or does it?
It really, it gives us more signal there, and they've got their signals, so it's.
And their content's very different, because when I
It
couldn't get anything in Ellenburg, we ended up listening to Vermont. They're saying that they were interviewing all these people for different political offices that were running, and they were all Vermont.
When I hear our Vermont supporters talk, they always tell me how they're grateful they're able to get both because they get to tune in to us for things that they like and at different time for other stuff. If they want to hear a show twice, sometimes they can do that. So if anything, it expands our ability to gain more support from obviously people who want to support in Vermont as well.
But,
However, we do not feel that way about anything that is Alan Charco.
No.
Well, and I should mention, I had occasion to have dinner with my counterpart at Vermont Public Radio not long ago. And one of the things that he mentioned actually was that he has members or people he knows in the Burlington area that like to point out to him that they support NCPR. But you know, our ambition as far as reaching people in Burlington isn't necessarily to compete with Vermont Public Radio in what they offer to, you know, and how they serve Vermont. I think our ambition there is to give people an option, and you know, the very same way that people listening in Plattsburgh to us primarily had the option to tune into Vermont Public Radio. And, I think we both agree that there are more than enough listeners to go around. And, we're certainly not going to compete with BPR in terms of like offering news service expressly to Vermont listeners. And we, in fact, to this point, we actually collaborate with them. We offer content to their morning show. We occasionally air content produced by Vermont Public Radio during Northern Light. So we have a very good relationship with them. I think we just give listeners in Burlington and some other places in Vermont kind of a funky alternative when they don't want to listen to what's on BPR.
And the local people that I speak to actually say they support both stations. So it's not like we're taking anything away from them. And honestly, our Canadian supporters as well. I mean, they love hearing about our border issues. So that's a lot of times why they're supporting us,
Now, Ben and Jerry wanted to send some money our way. We wouldn't complain.
Or ice cream.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Yeah, they're welcome to cater our next meeting. Steve, anything else? I guess what has to happen before these kinds of new services can make it on the air?
Well, they've got to be built.
They gotta be paid for.
And then, they've got to be paid for. And the cost will range in general for a new build out. Soup to nuts, we're looking at between 75,000 and 100K per site. A couple of them, there will be some cost savings depending on, there's a lot of variables that go into all of these. For example, in Tupper Lake, if we're able to, instead of putting up a second antenna on the tower for the second service, we can combine into one antenna. So the combiner itself costs something, but there are some cost savings in other areas. So, but in general, those numbers are pretty good for these new build outs. The upgrade in Tupper Lake itself will be a little bit less. The upgrade at WXLQ might be a little bit more because we're probably dealing with a little bit more in terms of physical construction, in terms of what the building that they're going to put us in. And as things currently stand, and perhaps some tower work that'll need to be done. So there's a lot of variables there.
Suffice it to say, we'll need to be doing some fundraising around each of these projects.
Absolutely. And the nice part though is, as Keith mentioned, on some of these towers, we'll be able to actually put out a second service. Currently WREM is only available in Canton, New York. However, because of these upgrades, we'll be able to actually push that through and give people a second option for programs on that specific station. So very exciting, and it's long coming, and we're happy to be moving forward on this.
The example being, for people who aren't familiar with WREM, we do broadcast it digitally as well, so you can stream it any place now. But during opera season, for example, the Metropolitan Opera airs on Saturday afternoons on our main NCPR program stream. But if you're listening in the St. Lawrence Valley, you can tune to 88.7 and listen to what's on North Country Public Radio on Saturday afternoons the rest of the year. Shows like American Roots and basically anything that typically airs between around noon and around 4. And we'd be able to make that option available to people on Saranac Lake and Tupper Lake and potentially Old Forge as well, and hopefully down the road to even more. Basically, it's there's definitely a chicken and an egg kind of dynamic going on here. We need more audience, and we can't reach more audience if we don't go to more places and serve them more reliably. And at the same time, we can't expect to have those, we can't build these things without having support in these places. So we're going to have to be creative in the funding streams that we look for, especially in a place like Ellenburg, which does not have a lot of population to begin with.
You gotta find people that go between Plattsburgh and Malone.
Exactly. Anybody driving across that northern tier of here in Quebec. We're gonna stand on the
Billboard.
roadside on the motorway. What is that, 20 that goes across southern Quebec with a
Signs. bunch of
sign and a
lawn
bucket?
signs. They have a
Sandwich
bunch of lawn
boards.
signs. We'll
Yeah.
send you each to put them on the
We
road.
should,
for
we
us.
should look to see if there's any like summer festivals or things that are in the Ellenburg
Yeah,
area.
that's a good.
Well, we've discussed the fact that obviously, the analogy, if you build it, they will come. We can't leave it at that. Obviously, we have to have promotion. We have to have marketing efforts that are going to support the fact that we have these new services, and new area coverages available. So a lot of work to be done, clearly. So
We do have call letters for our Ellenburg station approved. Keith, they were just turned, we got them from the Coast Guard, right?
Yeah,
WELN.
we applied for WELN, and that, the Coast Guard had that, and then we put in a request, and it was granted to, okay, we don't need these, so we were able to get WELN for Ellenburg.
nice.
We're planning on having our former, my predecessor will be the first person to own a WELN.
And from the time that the FCC grants the permits, we have 3 years to build them. So, let's see,
It behooves us to get moving.
Yeah.
For sure.
Anything else on the,
Any questions for Keith?
and just one more point, as of yesterday,
Oh, great.
we're good until 2030. All of our license renewals have been approved.
Okay, great.
Wow.
That's awesome.
okay, thank you. Okay, Julia, is your,
Yes, on the committees. So I will turn it over. How about I think all 4 committees, I believe, met this quarter. So we'll have reports back and then maybe talk a little bit more about next steps. So Peter, would you like to tell us about the University Relations Committee?
Sure, yeah. I had an opportunity between the last meeting and this meeting to sit down separately with Mitch and Paul. They were gracious enough to let me ask them direct questions, and even more gracious enough to answer them directly. So just to get a sense of what the committee could do. When I took over the committee from Mark, it was pretty clear that there hadn't actually been a formal charge for the committee, or at least the committee was tasked with, that was its first charge, was to figure out what it was charged with. So in the course of that, and then the meeting we had yesterday, we hammered out really 3 focuses for the committee. One is simply to convene and facilitate a space for NCPR and SLU to have conversations around staffing and human resources if they need to be had. So that'll be a sort of by invitation only. We didn't feel as a group that it was our place to force those kinds of conversations on SLU as an entity and NCPR as a sub-entity. We wanted to be an advocate for NCPR if possible. The second and the third are interrelated, but they have to do with student and curricular engagement with NCPR's mission as SLU begins a new set of digital media and journalism program. And then just to expand opportunities for their students to interact with the work of NCPR in ways that are meaningful for the curriculum. And then the second part of that connected is facilities. So it is the University Relations and Facilities Committee, technically. And so that will be an ongoing conversation and a long and complicated one about ways to see if we can move NCPR into more modern space over time. That might also be connected to the academic mission of SLU. The grand vision is something instead of St. Lawrence Golf Course, with 2 huge wings.
Sounds a bit like
Students
the
can interact on
Pentagon.
one side and NCPR can be on the other side. And in the middle, there'll be a fantastic coffee court where people can
We're
meet.
working on acquiring the air rights.
Right, exactly,
So we can build vertically as well.
So we've made some good first steps, and we'll, by the time we get together in August, we'll flush that out a little bit more.
It was the meeting yesterday with
It was the meeting yesterday.
the whole committee.
Well, the whole committee was, not everyone was able to attend.
But it was a committee meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and I guess the committees, this is kind of the second year of their creation, and in general, I think they're off to a great start. And so if these things sound of interest to you, I think particularly during the July meeting, we might be able to reshuffle around committee membership and chairs if there's a desire for that. So if any of this stuff sounds interesting that you want to be on a different or additional committee, please kind of keep note of that, and we can more formally do that in July. So secondly, the advancement committee, that's led by Margot, who's not here. Lizette, did you have cause to meet
I
this?
do. Yes.
Okay, would you mind filling us in on that?
I can absolutely do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so everyone would have received this Executive Council Member Fund Development Plan. Here in paper, there's a hard copy, but I also sent a Word doc and a fillable PDF through the email. Mitch sent that out with his agenda yesterday. So what I will say about this, and you have an envelope if you're here. So we would really love it if you could take some time to fill this out for us. This will be something that we're doing annually to assess your ability to help the subcommittee and of course the Executive Council as a whole with our fundraising efforts. Okay, so this is basically the roadmap. This basically tells you exactly where support is needed and where you can be most instrumental in helping us. It covers everything from your personal contribution to the station to providing potential prospects that we should know about so that we can start inviting new conversations, building new relationships with new potential audience members and new potential supporters, obviously. It'll talk about donor cultivation and your willingness or interest in participating in the cultivation and stewardship of some of those donors. When it comes to engagement, we know we need to get out there, right? We're going to have virtual events. We're actually going to try to have more in-person events as this COVID thing hopefully clears. So what your willingness is to assist with that. Where that becomes especially important, in the outreach efforts is as we start getting into more of the communities. For example, we're in Plattsburgh. So whoever's is close enough to Plattsburgh and willing to help, we will call on you to please help us put an event together and engage you in those conversations. Beyond that, what additional support? Underwriting support is needed. We talked to you before. Jessica is right on the verge of, she's finalizing her new media kit, which I hear is looking lovely. So we're looking forward to, of course, getting that in your hands once that's done. And how many leads can you provide? Are you willing to provide some leads on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, whatever your comfort level is what we want you to honestly fill in on here. We recognize that you're not going to do all this, okay? We just want you to have the tool necessary to see where we could really use your support so that you can engage in whatever way you see, whatever works for you, essentially. So, corporate sponsors, if you have contacts at foundations that we can reach out to, all of that information is useful to us as we continue to grow our relationships with existing and new potential audience and supporters. All right. So please go ahead and, fill those in. Tell us what you're good at. If you're good at graphic design and are willing to put us in touch with someone or help us out with that, we'd love that too. So, whatever obviously you're comfortable with is what we're looking for. But have that, if you don't mind, sent to us by the end of the month. And then Margot and I will reach out to you individually to discuss.
In May.
Yeah, May. Yes, I get my M's mixed up. So yes, at the end of May, not March next year. I need this soon.
No, I didn't know if you meant that or June.
No, I mean May. Well, it's Memorial Day, May 31st. So June 1st is great.
Well, and it's worth noting, I don't think the expectation is that you contribute in every one of these areas.
No.
So, the idea is to look through this and kind of parse out where you can best contribute. But don't, if you don't really have any idea, how to do special events and staff-led efforts, don't fill that part in.
Right. If you have no interest in stuffing an envelope, just say no. It's all good. So again, it's whatever you're comfortable with so that we know what groups to put together, how to start creating strategies that include you in those strategies on moving things forward. Make sense? Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So beyond that, you know, we're looking, once we do have that feedback from you, obviously we will start creating actual plans for virtual events, for whatever, you know, any fundraising or outreach opportunities that come out of this. It gives us a good starting point to start actually making those other plans happen. We also discussed during the advancement team meeting last week that, you know, we're going to be out there. We're going to be asking more questions. We really want to know, especially since you guys are spread all over the place. We want to talk specifically about what you see in your communities, you know, some of the needs, maybe this, you know, housing is a big thing with the news organization, or excuse me, the news department sent out that survey and housing was a huge topic. So obviously that might be in your community, but it might be something else that we're not aware of. And so we really do want to engage you all in helping us determine what's important in your community so that, again, we know what kind of events to put on in those areas as well. We discussed the fact that we're working more on grants, and I'm developing a grants team. Bryna, thankfully, has offered to be a participant in that grants team, so thank you very much. So if you are interested in also helping with that, please, you know where to reach me. Beyond that, we're looking at collaboration and where we can actually collaborate with other organizations throughout the region in some of this work as well. The things that are important, as I already mentioned, lead generation is so important to us. If you know names, if you think of anyone who we can start talking to, please email me or put it on that list that I gave you, that packet. We're trying to appeal more and more to new supporters. We know that if we don't stay relevant with new supporters, that Lord only knows what the future will hold for us. So it's very important that all of our messaging from this point forward is even more intentional in talking to new audience members and new supporters in general. I think I've talked enough.
Thank you. That's a great report. A lot of great work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The governance committee, Marion, would you like to report on that?
Yes, thanks. Lovely to see all of you. And so sorry again not to be there. The governance committee has met. We have had a couple of canceled meetings along the way as well, but we're still working in force. I had a long talk with Margot Ernst during the winter about her thoughts on committee and advisory board membership, which was helpful to me in terms of getting some institutional history about the intent. And it was a good conversation. I think the most important thing I can bring you up to date on is there'll be an announcement later this week that we've got a new board member at St. Lawrence. Her name is Kathleen Colson, and she's a full-time resident of Saranac Lake. And she has been diversifying the board at the Wild Center, where she's serving. And so I'm hoping to really bring her along and just in terms of asking her for some suggestions about how to build this advisory committee and how to diversify this advisory committee. It seems we have an expert in our midst, and I intend to utilize that. So that's a short report, but that's where we are. We are, however, really interested in your suggestions. I haven't gotten many from the advisory committee, and I would love some, so that you know where you live better than we do. And we'd love you to bring us some talent that can join this committee and this advisory committee. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And we will be putting out a call for new executive council members to be voted in at the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So that we have the application, I think, mostly set. And the call will go out on the radio, and it'll go online in advance, and then we'll have we'll distribute that information to the will the nominating committee get?
So, right, the nominating committee or the governance committee will consider them and forward slate of recommended, but the EC at large will get all of the applications just to be able to kind of oversee the process.
Great. So we'll be doing that in the interim and then welcoming in new, or they won't attend the July, but voting them in July and welcoming in new members, I suppose, in the fall, which will be exciting both to consider them and to bring new people on. And the outreach committee did convene. This has been the committee that we've had the most kind of difficulty getting off the ground, which is okay. But I'm hopeful that in this next couple of months we'll be able to, or 6 months, I'd say, be able to really have that going. We did convene a meeting. We had Rich was there and Hannah was there and Bonnie, was the primary facilitator of it. And we talked for over an hour and had lots of kind of great ideas and really a call out for thinking of creative and collaborative ways that the radio station can get out in the community, in person, virtually, connect with different organizations and different small businesses and kind of like stack things, have a food provider and a creative art outlet and make the most of going into the community. So I thought it was a wonderful conversation and fruitful. And perhaps I think there was something that was happening in the fall. I forget now.
The underscore project is actually having a concert.
Okay.
In October.
Okay.
So I don't have the date off the top of my head, but we can certainly let you know when that's happening and invite you all to attend. But that is a project that we're starting locally right now, but the intention is to actually get concerts throughout the region so that we can feature local artists from throughout the region.
Great.
The concert is actually, this phase of the underscore project is being supported by a grant from the St. Lawrence County Arts Council. And one of the requirements for that is that the events have to take place within the community of service. So St. Lawrence County.
So that'll be a great it sounded like that was a kind of a prototype of these
Exactly.
type of community outreach events and the type of thing that this committee will be working on in the future. So again, a call in general, if you would like to be on this committee or chair it, or have good ideas for things that you'd like to see in your own communities, please, reach out to Bonnie, I think particularly, and you can include me and Mitch and Lizette and Bob to get those ideas going out. So we hope to have at least another meeting and pick a chair and somebody to really kind of spearhead a lot of this work in the coming months. And so I think that's it, unless anybody else has anything to say or report back or thoughts in general, existentially on the committee structure.
Just a quick thought about the outreach event and the concerts. I know through a source that SLC Arts is actually administering NEA funds for Franklin and Jefferson counties as well. So I don't know what pool of money the funding comes from for the underscore project, but if you wanted to go with Franklin and Jefferson, you could just mention that to Meg and not tell her.
Not that this is on the radio.
This is recorded.
Or recorded. Public sector.
That's fabulous. This one was specific to St. Lawrence County and to feature St. Lawrence County local musicians. So, but yeah, absolutely. Moving forward, we're gonna be looking around for whatever funding we can get.
Yeah.
And beyond that, obviously with any event, we'd like to not only have it be about the event, we also want it to be about engagement opportunities in advance of the event, whether it's a VIP cocktail hour or who knows. A lot of creative thinking right now going on as to how we can make the most of an event. And
Thank you. That's it. I'll turn it back over to you, Bob.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia. And thank you for spearheading the committee work, keeping an eye on that, moving it along. Next item is new business. Do we have any new business? Anybody like to bring up any new business? No. Okay. We want to do the executive session, I believe.
We
right?
do have a brief executive session.
Okay, do we want to, before we do the executive session, do we want to set the time and place for the annual meeting?
Yes, I would propose Monday, August 29th at St. Lawrence University.
That's not gonna cause a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know, Paul, is that gonna cause problems with
Okay,
your
thank
students
you. I'll
coming
share
back?
The dreaded no camera moment.
Well, we could look into it and get back to you
Uh,
for sure.
So the annual meeting will take place at St. Lawrence University in late August at a date to be determined in the coming days.
Okay, well, and I have the 29th on my calendar just as a test, so let's,
But
let's,
Hold the date, yes.
that might be a really busy time. It'd be better to do it like a week earlier or something.
And as we prepare to go into executive session, are you departing?
Well, because we
Well,
should
yes,
be
I-
here for your
Yes,
second.
you're not gonna lurk outside the door, though.
We'll wait for you all downstairs.
Okay.
if you want
We
to
have a
tour
tour
of the facility.
Thank
We have a
Thank
couple
you.
of things to do in the day, so that's not a problem.
Okay. As long as you don't disappear without us being able to say goodbye.
Yeah.
We'll see you there. And so we can, thank you, yes.
when does St. Lawrence come back? Come back that weekend or something?
First
I'm not
day,
sure.
yeah, I just looked it up. First day of classes is the 24th.
Yeah.
Oh.
and then we
Oh, they'll be back already, so it's no
Yeah.
So it
big
should
deal.
be okay.
Still got the back.
Potentially, it depends
Well,
on
that
what
first,
room we
that'll be
want
their
to-
first 3 days, so it might be a big deal because they might have a lot of events going on, welcoming new students.
Part of
too,
it
so.
is the availability of the room that we're looking at.
Right.
Hopefully it'll be the Legends Room at the Appleton Arena, but so I will touch base with Paul, the person who does scheduling at that facility,
Okay.
and find out what dates it's available. And
Right.
If it's there, there's parking isn't gonna be a problem in the middle of the day,
Right,
but
right.
if it was someplace else on campus, it could be.
exactly.
Okay,
All right.
I guess, yeah, it would be a good idea to let us know too where we can park without getting towed or fined.
Yeah, there's
or-
visitor parking by the arena.
Yeah, and there's a huge parking lot across.
Okay, good. Okay, so we move to executive session, we will
We'll
stop.
need to pause the
recording.
recording.
Yeah, close the
And
recording.
I need a motion.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
we have
we
a
do.
motion to,
To go into executive session.
we have a motion to, thank you,
Brian, up?
Brian, second,
Julia.
Julia, thank you. All in favor?
Alan McLeod, we'll give him the second.
Okay, Al.
Okay.
There you go, Al, thank you,
Kingston represents-
Second all the way from Canada.
that's what I like.
I learned a long time ago that if you make sure you get your name in the minutes for seconding or second
Right.
motion, that everybody knows you were there, even if you
Right.
don't end up on the list.
All right, so we're paused.
Is there a vote?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And we would adjourn, so.
Wow. well,
Like
I do,
By my
World
watch,
record.
so.
I do recommend those of you who haven't looked around here, do that. It's a great gallery. Their exhibits change many times during the year. They have some interesting events here. It's there's culture even down in this part of the Adirondack. It's great.
I know the show that I produce has featured exhibits at View a couple of times in the last 2 years. so.
Okay, great. Anything else? Okay, just want to thank everybody for coming out here and thank the crew from the station from driving down.
Yes, on the record, I would like to thank the View Center for Arts and Culture for hosting us today. Thanks to the Cohens for helping make that connection to allow this to happen. And I hope we'll be back here to do another event that everyone will be invited to soon.
Yeah, great. Okay, can we have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Julia. Second. Thank you,
Bryna,
Right on.
Bryna.
Bryna, rhymes with China.
Bryna. Okay, Bryna, China. Good, thanks. Bryna. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any abstentions? Oh, okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for
Great.
being here.
Thank you,
Thanks,
those of you on